Children of Princess Margarita of Greece and Denmark, Prince Kraft of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, eldest child of Princess Margarita, Prince Philip's eldest sister, and her German princely husband, Kraft was born into a tumultuous era. As a boy in Nazi Germany, he witnessed his parents' uneasy ties to the regime. His father, Prince Gottfried, even served as a Wehrmacht officer while trying to keep connections with British relatives. After World War II, Kraft's family was initially shunned due to their German affiliation, but was gradually welcomed back into royal circles. In 1960, upon his father's death, he became the head of the House of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, carrying the title first, Prince. In a largely ceremonial capacity, he married Princess Charlotte of Croy in 1965, and together they raised 3 children, ensuring the continuation of their noble line. Prince Kraft devoted himself to managing the family estates and participating in local civic life in post-war West Germany. In later years, he rekindled ties with his British royal cousins, symbolising post-war reconciliation within the family. He remained a respected figure of European nobility until his passing in 2004. Princess Beatrix of Hohenlohe-Langenburg. The only daughter of Princess Margarita, Beatrix was born amid the upheaval of 1930s Europe and spent her early childhood in wartime Germany. In the post-war years, she grew close to her British relatives. As a young woman, she even lived in London for a time, appearing at events like the 1953 coronation of her aunt, Queen Elizabeth II, renowned for her quiet grace. Princess Beatrix was briefly engaged to her first cousin, Prince Maximilian of Baden, in the 1950s. That planned union of royal cousins never came to fruition, and she remained unmarried thereafter. Instead, she devoted herself to family obligations and discreet charitable work, living a life largely out of the public eye. Beatrix was a beloved figure within the extended royal family, embodying continuity between the old European aristocracy and the modern world. She died in 1997, her legacy one of loyalty and steadfastness during a century of great change. Prince Georg Andreas of Hohenlohe-Langenburg. The youngest son of Princess Margarita, Georg Andreas was born on the eve of World War II. His earliest years unfolded in a Germany at war, though his princely family remained far from the front lines. Coming of age during the country's reconstruction, Georg Andreas inherited a deep sense of duty to his family's legacy. He married Princess Luisa of Schönberg-Waldenburg, uniting 2 venerable German noble houses, and the couple had 2 daughters. Since his elder brother Kraft assumed the headship of the family, Georg Andreas lived a more private life, free from dynastic pressures. He devoted himself to supporting the management of the family estates and engaging in local civic and cultural activities in Hohenlohe. His long life, which extended into the 21st century, bridged the era of Europe's fallen monarchies and the era of a reunified Germany. Prince Georg Andreas's steady presence symbolised the endurance of family heritage through tumultuous times, until his death in 2021 at the age of 82. Prince Ruprecht of Hohenlohe-Langenburg. Ruprecht was one of the twin sons born to Princess Margarita in April 1944, during the final year of World War II. His birth, alongside his twin brother Albrecht, brought a ray of hope to his exiled family amid the turmoil of wartime Europe. Ruprecht's earliest years were spent in the relative quiet of the family seat at Langenburg as the war came to an end. In the post-war decades, he led a life away from the spotlight, never marrying or taking on public duties. The privileges and certainties of the old nobility were fading in his adulthood, and Ruprecht at times struggled to find a defined role in this new world. Tragically, his life was cut short in 1978 when he died at just 34 years old. His untimely passing was a somber reminder that royal status offered no immunity from personal trials. Within the family, Prince Ruprecht's story is remembered with sadness, a brief life that unfolded during a period of great transition and ended far too soon. Prince Albrecht of Hohenlohe, Langenburg. Twin brother of Ruprecht, Prince Albrecht was also born in war's twilight. He grew up in a Germany that was rebuilding and redefining itself, far removed from the imperial courts his ancestors had known. In middle age, Albrecht charted a more settled personal course. He married Maria Hildegard Fischer in 1976, a commoner from outside royal circles, reflecting how Europe's aristocracy was adapting to modern times. The marriage produced one son, Prince Ludwig Ferdinand, continuing the family line into another generation. Albrecht himself lived largely out of the public eye, balancing a respect for his family's proud traditions with the realities of a changing society. He took on the quiet responsibilities of a country gentleman, involved in his community and the upkeep of family properties. Sadly, Prince Albrecht's life was also shortened early. He died in 1992 at the age of 48. With his passing, the hope that the twins represented for their family during World War II came to an end, but his legacy endures in the continued line of the Hohenlohe-Langenburg family and their adjustment to the modern era. Children of Princess Theodora of Greece and Denmark, Princess Margarita of Baden. The only daughter of Princess Theodora and Berthold, Margrave of Baden, Margarita was Prince Philip's niece and a bridge between Greek, German and British royalty. Born in 1932 in Germany just before the rise of the Nazi regime, she witnessed her parents' quiet opposition to Hitler's ideology while growing up at Schloss Salem. After World War II, Margarita moved to Britain, reflecting the strong family ties to England. There she trained as a nurse at St. Thomas's Hospital in London, an unusually hands-on vocation for a princess, showcasing her practical and compassionate nature. In 1957, she married Prince Tomislav of Yugoslavia, an exiled prince and fellow descendant of Queen Victoria, whom she had first met during the coronation of her aunt, Queen Elizabeth II. The couple settled on a farm in the English countryside of Sussex, living an industrious yet modest life and raising a son and a daughter. For 24 years, they shared a down-to-earth existence, running a fruit farm far from palace intrigues. Although that marriage ended in divorce in the early 1980s, Margarita remained a respected and well-loved figure in royal circles. She frequently appeared at major family occasions, including the 2011 wedding of the Duke of Cambridge, as a dignified elder stateswoman of Prince Philip's family. Princess Margarita spent her later years in England, her life epitomising the blend of royal heritage and service-minded humility until her death in 2013 at age 80. Margrave of Baden. The elder son of Princess Theodora, Maximilian was a first cousin to Prince Philip's children, and led a life intertwined with Europe's dramatic 20th century history. Born in 1933 and raised at his family's Schloss Salem in Baden, he was a child during the Nazi years, when his father, a former chancellor's son, reluctantly served in the German military even as the family kept its distance from Nazi politics. After the war, Maximilian benefited from a progressive education at Schule Schloss Salem, a school his father helped found with educator Kurt Hahn, which emphasized leadership and service. He went on to perform military service in the new West German Bundeswehr, eventually becoming a reserve colonel. In 1963, upon his father's passing, Maximilian assumed the title Margrave of Baden, a once sovereign title now purely honorific. As head of his house, he took stewardship of the family's remaining estates and business interests, adapting the role of a modern noble. In 1966, he married Archduchess Valerie of Austria, herself a great-grandchild of Emperor Franz Joseph, thus uniting two storied royal dynasties. The couple had 3 sons and 1 daughter. Maximilian dedicated himself to preserving his family's legacy, overseeing the family winery at Salem and supporting numerous charitable causes in his region. Despite Germany's abolition of royalty, he maintained a cultural and familial influence, and he kept warm personal ties with the British royal family, notably with his uncle Prince Philip. Illustrating the reconciliation of former wartime foes, Maximilian died in 2022 at the age of 89, closing a significant chapter for the older generation of European royalty. He is remembered for his sense of duty, modern outlook on noble responsibilities, and the unity he fostered between his German family and their English relations. Prince Ludwig of Baden. The younger son of Princess Theodora, Prince Ludwig was born in 1937 as the last child of his generation, arriving just before global conflict engulfed Europe again. Ludwig's childhood spanned the final years of World War II and the hardships of Allied occupation in Germany. These early experiences imprinted on him an understanding of upheaval and the value of stability. In contrast to some of his more prominent royal cousins, Ludwig chose a quieter path in adult life. He married Princess Anna Maria von Auersperg-Breuner, a member of an old Austrian noble family, linking the House of Baden with another lineage of the former Austro-Hungarian aristocracy. Together they had 2 daughters and a son, and Prince Ludwig focused on family life and the management of certain ancestral assets, all while staying largely out of the public eye. Without the burden of a marquis title, his elder brother Maximilian carried the Margravial title. Ludwig enjoyed more personal freedom to define his role. He became known as a courteous, learned man who valued privacy and the quiet dignity of country life. Now in his late 80s, Prince Ludwig of Baden stands as one of the last surviving nieces and nephews of Prince Philip. He remains a living link to the era of pre-war princes and post-war reconstruction. A dignified custodian of family heritage who has carried his royal lineage into the 21st century with little fanfare and much grace. Prince Ludwig of Hesse and by Rhine. Prince Ludwig was the firstborn child of Princess Cecilia and her husband Georg Donatus, hereditary Grand Duke of Hesse. His birth in 1931 made him a great-grandson of a reigning monarch, Ernst, Ludwig of Hesse, and also the first great-great-great-grandchild of Queen Victoria, reflecting the tightly knit tapestry of European royalty. Little Ludwig's life, however, was destined to be heartbreakingly short. In November 1937, the 6th Alexander of Hesse and by Rhine. Prince Alexander was the second son of Princess Cecilia and Georg Donatus, and like his brother Ludwig, he lived only a few short years. Born in 1933, Alexander spent his life in the loving embrace of his family at the New Palace in Darmstadt, unaware of the political storms gathering in Europe. Descriptions of the little prince recall a fair-haired, lively child doted on by his parents and grandparents. In November 1937, 4-year-old Alexander accompanied his family on what should have been a joyous journey, the wedding of his uncle in London. Instead, the trip ended in unimaginable calamity when their plane crashed. Prince Alexander perished with his parents and brother, a tragedy that left no direct heirs to the Grand Ducal House of Hesse. He was laid to rest with his family at Rosenhöhe, the royal mausoleum in Darmstadt. Though he never reached school age, Alexander's memory survives in the annals of royal history as part of the profound loss that struck Prince Philip's extended family in the 1930s. His story is often mentioned alongside his brothers as a reminder of the vulnerability of life, even within palaces. Princess Johanna of Hesse, and by Rhine. Princess Johanna was the youngest child and only daughter of Princess Cecilia. Born in 1936, she was just an infant when catastrophe befell her family. In November 1937, one-year-old Johanna was left behind in Darmstadt while her parents and brothers flew to London, a decision that saved her life. After the plane crash that killed the rest of her immediate family, Johanna became an orphan at barely 14 months old. The little princess was taken in by her paternal uncle, Prince Ludwig of Hesse, for whom the ill-fated wedding had been planned, and his new wife, Margaret. They intended to raise Johanna as their own, hoping to bring some solace by providing the child a loving home. For a brief time, Johanna was a tiny ray of hope amid overwhelming grief, the last surviving member of her nuclear family. Tragically, fate struck another blow. In June 1939, Johanna contracted meningitis, and despite medical efforts, the 2-year-old princess passed away. Her death extinguished the remaining light of Cecilia's family line. Princess Johanna was buried with her parents and brothers at the family mausoleum in Darmstadt. Though her life was heartbreakingly short, her story is remembered as a poignant footnote in royal history, illustrating both the compassion of family, in how her aunt and uncle cared for her, and the cruel fragility of life that even royalty could not escape. To Prince Christoph of Hesse, Princess Christina Margaret of Hesse, nicknamed Christa by those close to her, Princess Christina was the eldest child of Princess Sophie and Prince Christoph of Hesse. She was born in 1933 and came of age as World War II ravaged Europe. In 1943, her father, a German prince who served as an SS officer, was killed in a plane crash while on active military duty, a profound loss for 10-year-old Christina and her siblings. After the war, the widowed Princess Sophie moved her family to relatives in Germany, and in 1946 she remarried, becoming Princess Georg Wilhelm of Hanover. Christina's adolescence, therefore, was divided between the legacy of the Hessian princely house and the Hanoverian court of her stepfather. In 1953, at age 20, the elegant Princess Christina travelled to London to attend the coronation of her aunt, Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting the renewed bonds between her family and the British royals. While in Britain, she developed an interest in art restoration and studied the craft. It was during this period that she met Prince Andrew of Yugoslavia, an exiled younger son of the former Yugoslav king. The two married in 1956, a union that produced a son and a daughter, and was seen as a happy alliance of European royal cousins. However, the marriage would prove tumultuous. By 1960, Christina made the shocking decision to leave Prince Andrew and her life as a Yugoslav princess behind. She had fallen in love with a non-royal, the Dutch artist Robert van Eyck. This defiance of conventions scandalized royal circles at the time. Prince Andrew sued for divorce and gained custody of their children. While Christina departed to start a new life, she married Robert van Eyck and had 2 more children with him, embracing a bohemian, creative existence far removed from the protocols of court. That second marriage lasted over 2 decades before ending in divorce as well. In her later years, Princess Christina settled in Switzerland, living quietly on the shores of Lake Geneva. She remained on good terms with her British and European relatives, occasionally appearing at family events. Christina's life journey, spanning war, personal reinvention, and the breaking of royal norms, exemplified the 20th century transformation of royalty. She passed away in 2011 at the age of 78, remembered as a strong-willed, independent princess who lived life on her own terms. The second daughter of Princess Sophie and Prince Christoph, Dorothea was born in 1934 and, like her sister Christina, was deeply affected by World War II. She was just 9 years old when her father was killed in action in 1943. In the chaotic final days of the war, Dorothea, her mother, and siblings were forced to evacuate their home as Allied armies advanced. The family took refuge with relatives, including a stay at Wolfsgarten, the estate of Prince Ludwig of Hesse, uncle of Dorothea's late father. After the war, Dorothea's mother's remarriage into the Hanoverian royal family meant that Dorothea grew up amid a new set of royal relations and half-siblings. Despite these disruptions, Dorothea's demeanour was often described as calm and dutiful. In 1949, she and her elder sister even travelled to Britain to spend time with their grandmother, Princess Alice of Greece, indicating the far-flung support network the family had. Dorothea was present, alongside her sister, at Queen Elizabeth II's coronation in 1953, representing the Hessian cousins. Unlike more public royals, however, Dorothea preferred a life away from the limelight. She cultivated an interest in art and antiques, at one point modestly working in a London antique shop, a humble pursuit that showed her grounded personality. In 1959, Princess Dorothea married Prince Friedrich Karl zu Windisch-Graetz, a member of a once sovereign princely family from Central Europe. In preparation for this marriage, she converted from Greek Orthodoxy to Roman Catholicism, reflecting her husband's faith. The couple's wedding in Munich was attended by numerous European royals, a testament to Dorothea's connections. After marriage, she moved to Milan, Italy, where her husband pursued a business career. There, Dorothea lived the life of a private gentlewoman, devoting herself to her husband and, soon, their 2 daughters. She remained a loving link between her new family and her royal siblings, often joining gatherings, but staying out of any public political role. Prince Friedrich Karl died in 2002, and in widowhood, Dorothea eventually moved to Belgium to be closer to one of her children. She lived to the age of 91, passing away in 2025 as one of the last surviving nieces of Prince Philip. Princess Dorothea's long life spanned eras of immense change, from the waning days of Europe's royal empires through the Cold War and into the 21st century. She navigated those changes with a quiet adaptability and is remembered for her kindness, humility, and steadfast dedication to her family. Prince Karl was the only son born to Princess Sophie and Prince Christoph, arriving in March 1937. Tragically, he would have no memories of his father, who was killed in action when Karl was a small boy. Karl's childhood was spent under the care of his widowed mother and, after 1946, his stepfather, Prince George William of Hanover. As he grew into a young man, Europe was healing from war, and Karl became a symbol of renewed unity within his family. He emerged as a friendly link between the German branch of Prince Philip's family and their British counterparts. In fact, Karl was a familiar presence at Anglo-German royal events in the post-war years. He joined his uncle Prince Philip and cousin King Constantine of Greece on hunting expeditions, and he dutifully attended major occasions such as royal weddings in London. These appearances were quiet but significant, helping to normalise relations that had been strained by the war. On March 26, 1966, his 29th birthday, Prince Karl married Countess Yvonne Schapari von Muraschombach, Szechziget und Schapach, a Hungarian noblewoman. Their marriage, celebrated in The Hague, added a touch of Central European aristocratic glamour to the family. Karl and Yvonne settled in Germany and had 2 children, Prince Christoph and Princess Irina. Free from any throne, Karl pursued a life in the business sector and managed his family's remaining estates in Bavaria. He also took on the role of a cultural ambassador of sorts, attending events like the funeral of his grandmother, Princess Alice, in 1969, and other European royal gatherings, where his courteous demeanour was noted. In his later years, Prince Karl was regarded as an elder statesman of the extended family, a tall, silver-haired figure often seen conversing genially with cousins from Britain, Sweden, and Spain at family reunions. He upheld the traditions and values imparted by his royal upbringing, even as he witnessed the world modernize around him. Prince Karl died in 2022 at the age of 84. Reflecting on his life, many saw him as a gracious link between the formality of a bygone royal era and the more relaxed modern ethos of today's royalty. Through him, the Hesse family's connection to the British royal family remained strong into the 21st century. As child of Princess Sophie's first marriage, Prince Rainer was born in November 1939, just 2 months after the outbreak of World War II. He was only 3 when his father, Prince Christoph, was killed in 1943, so Rainer grew up never really knowing his father, yet surrounded by stories and the legacy of duty he left behind. Raised by Princess Sophie and later by her second husband in Hanover, Rainer witnessed firsthand the collapse of the old world and the birth of a new Germany. Instead of pursuing a military or political role, as some of his ancestors might have, Rainer gravitated towards intellectual and artistic endeavours. He developed a deep interest in history, particularly the complex, sometimes uncomfortable history of his own family during the Nazi era. In his professional life, Prince Rainer became a historian and a theatre director. He apprenticed at theatres like the Staatstheater Darmstadt and the Münchner Kammerspiele, honing his craft in stage direction and production. His scholarly side led him to support academic projects. Notably, he funded research by historian Jonathan Petropoulos that resulted in the book Royals and the Reich, an unflinching examination of how the Hessian princely family navigated the Third Reich. By openly confronting that chapter, Rainer demonstrated a commitment to truth and reconciliation with the past. Unlike many of his royal cousins who married into other noble families, Prince Rainer never married and kept a relatively low public profile. He spent much of his time among books, archives, and the arts, preferring the company of fellow intellectuals to the pomp of court life. Now, in his mid-80s, Rainer lives quietly in Germany. He has become an elder figure with a wealth of knowledge, respected for his erudition and reflective nature. Within the family, he is often consulted for his historical insight, ensuring that the lessons and legacies of the past are not forgotten. Prince Rainer's life illustrates a thoughtful response to a challenging inheritance, choosing understanding and creative expression over time. Princess Clarissa of Hesse. Born in 1944, shortly after Prince Christoph's death, Princess Clarissa is the posthumous daughter of Princess Sophie's first marriage. Her birth came at a time of sorrow and chaos. Her mother was mourning a husband, and Europe was in the final throes of war. Baby Clarissa's early years were spent in a dramatically changing world. By the time she was 2, her mother had remarried into the Hanoverian family, and Clarissa grew up alongside both her older Hesse siblings and a new set of younger half-siblings from her mother's second marriage. Perhaps because of this blended upbringing, Clarissa learned adaptability from a young age. In contrast to many royals of her generation, Clarissa stepped entirely away from public life and royal matchmaking. In the 1970s, she married Jean-Claude Derrien, a French businessman with no aristocratic title. This decision took her out of the sphere of royal Europe and into a more ordinary existence. The couple had 1 daughter, and Clarissa devoted herself to family life and personal interests, largely shielded from media attention. Living in France for much of her adult life, she became simply Madame Derrien in daily affairs, her royal status more a footnote than a defining feature of her identity. Those who know her speak of a cultured woman with a love of the arts and a fluency in multiple languages, who nonetheless values privacy above all. Now in her 80s, Princess Clarissa remains a discreet and little publicised member of Prince Philip's extended family. She occasionally appears at low-key family gatherings, but has no public role. Her life exemplifies the path of a royal born at the end of one era, who quietly transitioned into the life of a private citizen. In doing so, she found stability and personal happiness beyond the palace walls, reflecting the broader trend of her generation to seek individual fulfillment away from the traditional expectations placed upon royalty. Children from Sophie's second marriage to Prince George William of Hanover, Prince Welf, Ernst of Hanover. Prince Welf Ernst was the first child of Princess Sophie's second marriage to Prince George William of Hanover, born in 1947 as Europe was rebuilding from the ashes of World War II. Through his father, he was a grandson of the last reigning Duke of Brunswick and a great-grandson of Kaiser Wilhelm II, linking him to Germany's imperial past on one side and to Greek royalty on the other in his youth. Welf Ernst seemed to be on track for a conventional aristocratic life. In 1969, he married a commoner, Wibke van Gunsteren, a woman outside royal circles, and the couple soon welcomed a daughter. However, the turbulent cultural currents of the 1970s had a profound effect on him. Seeking deeper meaning beyond the privileges of royalty, Prince Welf Ernst and his wife became followers of the Indian spiritual teacher Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, later known as Osho. In a move that astonished their families, they left behind their comfortable European existence and moved to the Guru's ashram in Pune, India. Immersing themselves in this new life, they adopted Sanskrit names given by Osho and donned the orange robes of his disciples. They even went so far as to obtain a legal divorce as part of renouncing worldly attachments, though in practice they remained together as a couple within the commune. For Prince Welf Ernst, this radical departure was a search for personal enlightenment far outside the confines of royalty. Tragically, it ended far too soon. On January 10, 1981, while participating in a morning karate exercise session at the ashram, 33-year-old Welf Ernst collapsed due to a cerebral hemorrhage. Attempts to save him were unsuccessful, and he died that day. His sudden death shook both the spiritual community in India and his royal relatives back in Europe. Princess Sophie and Prince George William flew to India to retrieve their son's ashes. He was cremated in accordance with the ashram's practices and brought Welf's young daughter back home to be raised with family. Prince Welf Ernst's life remains one of the most extraordinary in Prince Philip's family. A young German prince who traded a life of privilege for one of ascetic spirituality. His journey from palace halls to an Indian commune stands as a vivid testament to the era's spirit of experimentation and the personal quests that even Prince Georg of Hanover. Prince Georg is the second son of Princess Sophie and Prince George William, born in December 1949, in the peaceful years following the war. He was named for his father and inherited a rich blend of royal ancestry. Through his mother's side, he is a nephew of Prince Philip, and through his father's side, a great-grandson of Kaiser Wilhelm II, and also related to the kings of Hanover and Prussia. Georg spent his early childhood at Schloss Salem in southern Germany, where his father was a director of the famous boarding school located there. Growing up in the 1950s and 60s, he enjoyed a childhood that was both aristocratic and relatively normal, attending school and learning several languages. In adulthood, Prince Georg continued the family tradition of cosmopolitan marriage. In 1973, he married Victoria Ann B. An American photographer and socialite. Victoria's mother was Countess Eleonore Fugger von Babenhausen, connecting an American upbringing with one of Austria's most prominent noble families. A sign of the changing social landscape where New World and Old World met Georg's marriage to Victoria brought a touch of transatlantic modernity to the House of Hanover. The couple had 2 daughters, expanding Prince Philip's family tree to include half-American grandchildren. Prince Georg and his family spent time living in the United States as well as Europe, and he pursued a career in business, involving himself in international finance and the management of family investments. Preferring a low profile, he did not take on public royal duties but did attend major family events, such as milestone birthdays and funerals. As the years went on, Georg settled back in Germany. He kept up the family's ties to their royal cousins. For example, he paid visits to Queen Sophia of Spain and King Constantine of Greece, both of whom are his first cousins through his aunt, Queen Frederica of Greece. Now in his mid-70s, Prince Georg of Hanover leads a quiet life. He is often described as gracious and friendly, a man who comfortably straddles 2 continents and 2 eras. With his upbringing in post-war Europe and his later family life in America, Georg embodies the global dispersion of Europe's royal descendants. He has witnessed his royal role evolve from one of potential dynastic importance to one of cultural and familial significance. Today, he remains a respected elder in the Hanover family, content to support his relatives and share the history of his illustrious lineage with the next generation. Princess Frederica of Hanover. The youngest of Princess Sophie's children, Frederica was born in 1954 and named after her father's sister, Queen Frederica of Greece. As the baby of the family, she grew up in a post-war environment that was already far removed from the grandeur her mother had known before the war. Frederica's childhood was spent at her parents' home in Schliersee, Bavaria, and she was doted on by her older siblings. Queen Elizabeth II agreed to be one of Frederica's godmothers, reflecting the close bonds between the British and Greek-German royal families. In her youth, Frederica received a solid education and proved to be an adventurous spirit. In the early 1970s, she decided to further her studies in Canada, enrolling at Simon Fraser University in British Columbia. This move overseas was emblematic of her generation of royals seeking roles and identities beyond the traditional European royal sphere. She thrived in the academic and multicultural environment of Canada and ultimately chose to make her life there. Princess Frederica married a Canadian man, Jerry William Cyr, and embraced a down-to-earth life in North America. Settling in the Vancouver area, she became known simply as Frederica Cyr, or Mrs. Cyr, her royal title rarely used in daily life. The couple had a daughter and a son, and Frederica devoted herself to her family and community, far from the spotlight. Her neighbours might not have guessed that the friendly, unassuming woman volunteering at local events was born a princess of one of Europe's oldest royal houses. Despite the distance from Europe, Frederica kept in touch with her mother and siblings, and her children grew up aware of their unique heritage. She would return to Germany or England occasionally for big family occasions, such as milestone birthdays or reunions, often blending in rather than standing out. Now in her early 70s, Frederica remains in Canada, enjoying a life that is largely private and fulfilled by the successes of her children and the company of friends. She exemplifies the way many of Prince Philip's nieces and nephews adapted to the modern world, by forging their own paths. In her case, that path led her across an ocean and into an entirely different way of life. Princess Frederica's story demonstrates that even those born into royalty can choose ordinary happiness, carrying their illustrious ancestry with humility into new lands and communities.